Alright, boys, another day, another cut content. This might be the most important cut content yet because a lot's happened last episode. And I'm so confused. Like, what happened to Emilia? She went insane, it seemed like. Either she was insane or something. I don't think I don't it's easy to think that Emilia was possessed by Satella, but I don't think it was Satella. I really doubt it. I don't know. I don't know how that would make sense. What, did Emilia go insane? Like, there's a lot of questions I still got from that episode. By the way, I'm watching the cut content right after the episode, so if y'all like answered the questions in the other video, obviously I don't know them right now. So, but yeah, I have a lot of questions to the episode. Roswaal killing everyone and pretty much just telling Subaru the whole fucking shit. Like, oh, you can just restart, bro. A lot happened last episode. AniNews, once again, thank you for the cut content. Give me some more context and let me know what was cut out, because a lot happened. Let's go into it, bro. Just go into it.
Little by little, everything is finally starting to come together. But sometimes it feels like with every answer we get, two more questions pop up.
Yes,
one of which I'm sure you have is what exactly happened to Emilia.
Yes. What happened to Emilia? What the fuck happened?
Well, the novels actually gave us quite a detailed look into her descent into madness. Something that'll be covered more towards the middle of the video.
Okay.
But what's arguably more important to explain is the whole encounter with Beatrice.
Yeah.
Especially the parts regarding why she refused his help. Then, towards the end, you'll get to see why it was that this loop was the one Subaru considered to be the closest to hell. A couple of cutscenes that I definitely recommend sticking around for.
Bet.
So, let's go through all this and more as we begin our longest cut content ever.
Oh shit, yeah, cause this is fucked. What the fuck happened this fucking episode, man? Oh my god.
So, let's go through all this and more as we begin our longest cut content ever.
Our longest cut
First,
content.
Today's video is sponsored by Guardian.
Get your bag, bruh. Get your bag, man. Right here.
Tales today. Now, let's get back to the video. Episode 36, The Taste of Death, covering chapters 3 to 4 of volume 12 of the light novel. When Subaru first entered the library, there was one peculiar thing that he finally noticed about Beatrice's position. Despite there being various desks and tables scattered throughout the room, Subaru found that Beatrice was always seated on this one single stool. She was always there, sitting at the center of the room right in front of the door, as if always ready to receive a guest. It was a hint towards Beatrice's truth that had been in front of us the entire time. A truth that Subaru was now trying to piece together. But that objective quickly got pushed to the side when Subaru became angered by the false image of the girl he thought he knew.
Damn.
I mean, Beatrice was always so full of confidence. She was always this person he could look up to as a pillar of strength.
Yeah.
Someone he could rely on whenever he needed it most.
And yeah, that's definitely what she was, dude. The amount of times she clutched up in that in arc 2, bro. Like the amount arc 2, yeah. The amount of times she clutched up, bro. Like when we first pulled up to the mansion and shit, dude.
Yet here she was looking.
Wait, was it arc 2 or arc 1? My bad, I just fucked up the numbers probably. Episode I think I'd rather just say it like this. Episode 4, right? When we first arrived to the mansion. And pretty much in that time frame of the whole, Subaru resetting, and every time he went to Beatrice, he went to Baco, and pretty much him going to Baco, pretty much like helped him like not go fully insane. Obviously, he was still going through a lot of trauma and a lot of psychological trauma and stuff, but Baco was like that pillar of strength that pretty much prevented him from fully descending into madness, for sure.
Complete opposite, helpless and frail and weak.
Yeah.
This wasn't someone he could rely on whenever he needed it most.
Go back a little bit.
Yet here she was looking the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Helpless and frail and weak.
Not the same
This
Baco.
wasn't the Beatrice that Subaru came to know. It made him feel as if the person he became so close with was nothing but a facade. As if he'd never actually really met the real Beatrice. It was this lingering doubt that made Subaru feel so much anger. But he wasn't angry at Beatrice for having led him astray. His anger was directed towards the book that she was supposedly bound by.
The book.
So he snatched it away from her. Perhaps if he read some of what was on the inside, he could discover a slight sense of what Beatrice truly thought. More than anything, Subaru just wanted to understand her. But as we saw, the book was empty.
It was empty.
This fact contradicted everything that Subaru was initially led to believe. I mean, it was only a couple loops ago that Beatrice stated with such conviction that her past actions were only because of the book's guidance. Clearly that wasn't the case anymore.
Yeah.
This new information of the book having been blank for years now implied that when Beatrice had helped him in the past, it was out of her own free will. An implication that renewed Subaru's hope in this spirit. In fact, this was the most hope that Subaru had felt in a while. Mainly because this entire time he'd been pushing forward under the assumption that his 2 months getting to know Beatrice was fake. His previous encounter with her had left him with a gut-wrenching sense of agony and disbelief.
Yeah, that was horrible.
But now that that was proven to no longer be the case, it was as if a very heavy burden had now been lifted off his chest.
Facts.
Beatrice then went on to talk a little bit more about her contract. And it was during this explanation that a significant line was omitted from the anime. The actual reason behind why she was waiting for that person. We already know that her job was to protect the archive until that person appeared. But what she didn't say was that the knowledge within the archive was supposed to be passed on to that person as well.
What? It is Betty's duty to protect the stored knowledge so that it may be handed to that person. What? What?
It's a line that indicates the purpose of that person was to inherit Echidna's knowledge.
What?
So this was a promise tied both to that person and the archive of the forbidden books, both of which kept Beatrice bound to her pact. Now, Subaru couldn't just up and tell her that he was that person. He wasn't even sure that Roswaal was telling him the truth about it. Not only that, but the current situation was also far too delicate. Subaru simply wasn't sure what the right words were to say. There was no telling how Beatrice would act if she knew that he was that person, or if she would even believe him. So, he said nothing.
Yeah, he didn't say it. I can't really blame him. Like, I know that was like kind of like the main point, but like the main purpose of it, but finally getting there, I can see why Subaru refrained.
Beatrice then continued to talk about how her past 400 years had been. At first, she actually didn't find the initial few decades to be all that bad. I mean, she was living with a person who stood in the exact same position that she did. One that revolved around following the text of the book.
Yeah, the fucking book.
But eventually that first Mather's family member would die, beginning a cycle of replacement that Beatrice would have to watch for centuries. As one Roswaal died, the next would go on to inherit their ancestor's duty.
Roswaal's grandmother? Holy shit, what the fuck?
Such was the way things were. This made time eventually become very stale. It was always the same thing over and over again. The only thing that kept Beatrice clinging to reality was the faith that that person would come. But when the book stopped showing her future and that person never walked through those doors, the only conclusion that Beatrice could come to was that there was no future for her.
When no more is written in the book, it means the owner's future has come to an end.
This was a mindset that was very reminiscent to a situation from not too long ago. You see, Subaru knew all too well the corner that people tend to drive themselves into whenever faced with what seems to be an insurmountable obstacle. He knew that the harder you try to overcome it by yourself, the farther into despair you go. So, Subaru tried to give to Beatrice what Rem once gave to him.
Yeah.
He wanted with all his soul to be able to drag her out of this pit of loneliness. But Subaru's words were far too shallow to even reach. I mean, referring to 400 years of isolation as something that can be solved by simply asking for help was neither the answer Beatrice was looking for nor the answer she needed.
Yeah, no, that makes
Subaru
sense.
saying he'll save her meant absolutely nothing in comparison to the wounds that have built over the span of 4 centuries.
Yeah, 4 centuries, dude. Like, Subaru was not gonna be able to reach her there, man. It's just, that shit was not gonna happen, dude.
This is because he wasn't the first person to enter the library bearing such ambitious words. Sure, some have come only in search of gaining the power of a great spirit, but others have also come offering the exact same thing that Subaru was offering right now. All of them, including Subaru, were far too naive to truly understand, though. Half-hearted resolve like that wouldn't be enough to save her from her despair. If Subaru truly intended to save her, then he would have to place her above everyone else. But she knew as well as he did that his top spot was solely reserved for a single person. That's why no matter what he said, it would never be enough to save her.
Dang, bro. So that makes sense why that kind of just did not go well.
Instead, the only thing that he could do was kill her. death was the only end that Beatrice saw fitting for a spirit that couldn't even keep their pact.
Jesus.
Remember, spirits take pacts and contracts far more seriously than humans do. Sometimes it's quite literally the only reason for their existence. So, for a great spirit like Beatrice to have accomplished nothing with no one for the past 400 years, well, that was essentially the same thing as her life having no purpose.
She essentially just never had a purpose. That person never came. She pretty much just was alone for 400 years, bro. That's so fucking sad, man.
To make things worse, this pact was actually the very first one that Beatrice was given. Her duty her entire life had been to protect the archives and wait for that person to show up.
Jesus.
So this wasn't something she could easily cast aside like how Subaru wanted her to. It's not that the person she contracted with would be upset that she didn't fulfill it to its end. It was more so because as a spirit she couldn't permit herself to live on with the failure of having never completed it. For Beatrice to abandon the very first pact that she ever made, well, that would essentially be the same thing as committing a very grave sin.
Yeah.
One that goes against the very nature of a spirit's existence. So that's why she would rather die than commit that sin.
That honestly makes so much more sense, yeah. Wow. Any news, bro? Go.
There was also no point in living in loneliness for the rest of eternity either. And suicide wasn't even an option because that was considered to be the very same thing as violating the pact. It was an impermissible action for every spirit. So this left Subaru with only two options. He could either become that person for Beatrice and devote himself to her and her alone, or he could kill Beatrice with his own hands and end her suffering.
Jesus.
There was no other way to save her. That's why when Elsa came into the room shortly after, Beatrice actually said that she didn't mind if she was the one to kill her. She knew that Subaru's mind was already focused on how he could get to the village. So that was pretty much Beatrice's way of saying forget about me and go take care of the others. But Subaru's determination to stay seemed to resonate with her. When she activated Shamak, as superior as Elsa's senses were, they weren't quite good enough to see past the smoke.
Damn.
Only those with an affinity for shadow magic were immune to its obstructive effects. As they ran to the village, Subaru could make out a black plume of smoke rising from its direction. Despite knowing exactly what tragedy awaited him under that plume, Subaru was still determined to see it for himself.
Yeah, he wanted
His
confirmation.
head filled with both anger and sadness as Beatrice tried to convey the futility of the situation. He no longer knew whether those emotions were meant to be directed towards Beatrice or towards himself. Was it Beatrice's insufficient will to live or his own constant failure that impacted him more?
Probably just a mix of both, dude. Subaru's just going through a lot, man. Too much. There's a lot going on, bro. Like, I would not be surprised. It actually makes so much sense, like, why he's, like, always, like, so confused or hesitant to even, like, act sometimes. Because, like, dude, it's just too much.
Subaru just couldn't tell anymore.
Yeah, he couldn't
In any
even
case,
tell.
when Subaru had learned the fate of the girls, his dramatic shift in confidence spurred a very harsh reaction out of Beatrice. I mean, it was only moments ago that Subaru was using such ambitious words to say that he'd save her. Yet, here he was ready to give up on everything.
Damn. That is, yeah. His entire confidence. That's the thing about Subaru, bro. But like, can you really blame him though? He's just gone through so much. Like, it feels like every time just people die. Like every failure, bro. Every time he fails, he just keeps failing over and over and over. It seems like it will never go well, bro. How many times has he reset already, man?
To Beatrice, this was nothing short of pure arrogance. And his actions only showcased further betrayal to his own words.
Yeah.
Beatrice could now confirm that Subaru did not in fact have what it took to save her.
I mean, yeah, how it was mentioned literally a couple minutes ago, like the top person for him is literally Emilia. And his half resolve, he like the way that he was talking to Bacco here, there's no way that his words or how he truly felt was gonna reach her. There's just no way.
Because of this, her expression was now filled with utter disappointment.
It's disappointment.
And in the end, all she could say was how her own life was wasted on the likes of him.
Dang, what? Did she say that in the anime? What?
And all she could say was how her own...
I changed my mind. Betty's life is wasted on the likes of you. Ow?
Own life was wasted on the likes of him. She did, however, step up to defend him under the context of protecting the archive in the process, leading us into the brief fight that we saw in the anime. When it was over, Subaru knew for a fact that Elsa had been killed by Beatrice's attack, yet somehow there she was standing completely unscathed. Not a single wound could be visibly seen on her body. The only thing that seemed to take damage was her clothing, which was now all ripped to shreds. This made Subaru ask if she was immortal.
Don't tell me you're not gonna say you're immortal or something? Good. You know what? That's a good point. Cause like, dude, we literally saw her die. Like, what?
Of course, it was meant to be a joke, but Elsa actually responded as if he was serious.
What?
She said that referring to her as immortal would technically be incorrect.
Technically incorrect? Is she actually fucking immortal? No fucking way. I mean, that would explain her. That would explain her tanking the whole Reinhardt attack in episode 3. Then. Wait, what?
But she does live what she likes to call a filthier life than others.
I merely live a tad filthier than most. What? What is that? Okay.
A blessing granted by a malicious soul.
A blessing granted by a malicious soul. A boon granted by a malicious soul. Malicious soul.
It wasn't as if she couldn't die, but her last line made it seem as if it was something that she's experienced before.
Though I am fresh from being broken to such an extent, I can count the occasions on one hand. What?
At least that's how I personally interpreted it anyway.
Okay.
Before they started to play with Subaru, Elsa first confirmed that all the targets were eliminated, finally giving us confirmation that their contract was only for one spirit and 2 maids.
Yeah.
Now, there was actually a bit of significance behind Elsa's distaste in Subaru's eyes, a topic that was further discussed in the chibi short that accompanied this episode.
Are you serious? Actually? Oh my god. Okay, maybe I should have watched the break time. Okay. I went straight to the cut content because I was just like trying to see like I need to go to the break times. Okay. I'm gonna go to the break times right after this.
So I'll link to that in the description so that you can see for yourself what it is that Elsa dislikes about Subaru the most.
Okay.
It also explains why she decided to slowly gouge out his eye.
Okay.
Unlike the little...
Okay. I was looking down. I don't really want to look at the break time. Okay. Alright, well look at the break time literally after this, so.
Puncture that we saw in the anime. Elsa used her blade to completely skewer Subaru's left eye, dragging it out of its socket all while Subaru's right eye watched. He could see both the organ and its optic nerve be teared right out of his body, leaving him with nothing but pain and an empty cavity. The reason Elsa did this was partially because of the scorn that she felt towards Subaru. This was actually the first time that Subaru had ever seen such an emotion on Elsa's face. But it's not like this resentment was entirely unfounded. In fact, Subaru actually felt that that scorn was well deserved. He agreed with Elsa that Beatrice's sacrifice wasn't worth the person it was intended to save. After being teleported, Subaru could only lament over the atrocities he committed while in this world. He personally felt responsible for the death of every villager, maid, and spirit, each of which became a grave sin that etched itself into his soul.
My god,
he hated himself for being so powerless and worthless to do anything.
Jesus, Subaru. I mean, it's like... If we're talking like straight like fighting power, right? Like power... It's like, yeah, bro. It's just like I think that's the hardest part to like come to terms with. The fact that like Subaru, for the most part, is not able to fight, and he always just feels so helpless.
Much to the point that he saw himself a criminal. A self-proclaimed apostle of atrocity.
Apostle of atrocity. What a fucking name! Wow.
The only thing he could do to make up for such sins was to give himself a death that rivaled them. He wouldn't permit himself to have a quick or easy death this time.
Jesus.
That was the only way that he could forgive himself.
That's crazy.
In any case, Subaru cast aside his regrets and despair so that he could push himself forward. He wanted to learn what happened in Sanctuary before moving on to the next loop, but he made sure not to forget that at the end he still needed to atone. As he made his way out of the experimental facility, Subaru called for the closest clone to show herself. He knew that there was at least one of them assigned to watching the lab. So Subaru used her as his guide to get back to the settlement. It was after about an hour that Subaru finally arrived, but before heading into the tomb, he first found himself to be confronted by Garfield. Apparently one of his eyes had spotted him being guided by another, so Garfield came out to see if that was in fact the case. This brings us to an entire scene that didn't make it into the anime. You see, Garfield was very much furious about the current state of Sanctuary, and he thought that perhaps Subaru may have some answers. The only reason that Subaru was still alive right now was because Garfield's rage hadn't yet reached the tipping point.
Yeah.
Likely because the residents of Sanctuary were still deemed to be safe. This may not seem important right now, but most of them had gathered in the cathedral. Otto felt that it was a good idea to keep everyone together.
Okay.
That would have been the best way to take care of all the elderly. So Garfield accepted his recommendation. Now, the circumstances of the snow made for a very precarious situation, one that no one could really understand. But Garfield did have his suspicions. Suspicions that pertained to a much graver situation involving Emilia. Unlike in the anime, it was actually here in this moment that Subaru first finds out Emilia wasn't all there anymore. Before even seeing her in the tomb, Garfield straight up says that she went insane. She had learned the night before that Subaru had run away from Sanctuary, and this unexplained disappearance wasn't something that she took all too well.
Oh my god, so that, okay.
Of course, the letter should have prevented her from falling into despair, but Garfield knew nothing of any sort of letter being sent to her.
What the fuck happened to that letter? It seems like every time that Subaru talks about that fucking letter, there's just no answer. Like, no, it's like, everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Even without the letter, though, that still shouldn't have been enough to make her go crazy. Clearly something or someone else was manipulating her emotions.
For sure.
If Subaru was able to figure out what it was and stop the snow in the process, then Garfield was happy to assist. That's why he allowed him to go into the tomb to see Emilia. He was sent in with the purpose of trying to bring her back to her senses. Garfield thought that that was the best approach to stopping the snow, and at this point it was the only thing that Subaru could do for Sanctuary. Now, the anime did a fantastic job depicting the scene with Emilia.
Okay.
There was, however, a key detail that needs to be mentioned. One that further explains just how exactly Emilia descended into madness. As Garfield had mentioned, Emilia had been in the tomb for well over a day. Not only that, but she was also found to be within the room of the trial. Since she was there overnight, that meant that the trial should have began as soon as she entered the room. It also meant that her mind wouldn't have been able to escape until the trial had ended. So, the fact that she was awake right now meant only one thing. Emilia had challenged the trial and the trial had ended. The result of which was the person that we now see in front of him.
What the fuck, dude? Okay.
A person whose eyes now showed nothing except for Subaru's reflection.
Well, like...
It was a rather symbolic way of showing that Subaru was the only thing that this person had left. She was quite literally blinded by her love for him. That, however, is only a fraction of the answer. If we're to fully understand what happened to Emilia, then we also need to know what happened when she first found out that Subaru had left. At first, Emilia was scared. The pressure that arose from not being able to do anything right made her feel that Subaru would leave her forever. But then she realized that she could no longer be soft. She couldn't allow herself to cower in the corner while everyone else took care of her problems. No, not anymore. It made her look back and see how Subaru had always been taking care of her problems for her. It also made her remember the 3 words that he would always say.
I love you.
She never fully understood the true meaning behind those words up until now. Only after remembering how often Subaru had come to her rescue did those words finally start to resonate and leave a significant impact. An impact that only went to amplify the amount of worry that she felt for him. Because he was gone, a feeling of anxiety stacked and stacked to the point that it felt as if it would crush her. She felt that Subaru wouldn't ever want to return because she was so helpless. It pushed her into a corner where the only option she had was to work even harder. Perhaps if she worked hard for his sake like how he always did for hers, then he might actually return. That being said, at this point I don't think Emilia had fully lost her mind yet.
Really?
No. What pushed her over the edge was the trial. But not a single trial like how you may have thought. The fact that she was in the tomb all night dictated otherwise. Instead, it was multiple trials.
Oh!
Subaru could tell from the look in her eyes and the state of her mind that she had been challenging the trial over and over.
So it's just over and over. It just kept going at it, and that'll fucking make her go insane. That makes sense, yeah?
Going at it again and again since it was the only thing that she could do to break out of the grim situation that she found herself in.
My god.
Her mind had been slowly and steadily worn down from the trauma that came with facing her past many times over. And I'm sure the constant failure didn't help either. So it was a culmination of all these things that led to the Emilia that we see at the beginning. But as if things couldn't get worse for her, Subaru's reappearance did exactly that. his return spurred an overwhelming level of affection. Her words began to lose coherence as she tried to muster up what it was that she really wanted to say. At first, it was an apology for not being able to understand him. Then it was about how she'd changed herself so that she was thinking about him all the time.
My God.
Finally leading into those last 3 words that Subaru had always wanted to hear. Words that I'm sure brought him more pain than any of us could even imagine. I mean, it's not like he didn't want to indulge in it. A part of him just wanted to accept Emilia's whispers of love and fall into its softness for the rest of this loop. But Subaru wasn't so self-conceited to believe that those words and her actions were genuine.
Yeah.
So instead he left to confront the person who made her this way. The person
fucking
who was controlling
Roswaal.
Everything and everyone within Sanctuary.
Yep, the fucking puppet master.
When the two first confronted Roswaal, the fact that Ram was there by his side indicated that she too was part of his schemes. Subaru didn't know what her true intent really was, but there was no denying that she took part in what happened to Sanctuary and Emilia. We're not sure if it correlates to her promise with Roswaal, but I do find it odd that Ram was smiling when she died.
What the
Although it was very subtle, she did have a slight smile on her face as she fell to the ground.
I didn't notice that. I actually did not fucking notice that. What? Yeah, she did. I didn't notice that. She did have a smile on her fucking face while she... What?
Now, the reason why Garfield didn't just immediately turn into his tiger form was because of Ram as well. Garfield found himself at a crossroads. His rational mind was battling against his own survival instincts. Every part of his being was telling him to transform so that he could live, but his mind wouldn't allow him to do so. If he did, then the healing magic he was casting would stop and Ram would certainly die.
Yeah.
So he didn't transform. Now, Roswaal didn't just know that Subaru could alter the past, but also that his power was a direct result of having made a pact with Satella. He just didn't say it in those exact words. There was also a bit more to their discussion of Beatrice. Before talking about her dearest wish, Roswaal first confirmed that she had in fact fulfilled her duty. Apparently, in between all that had happened, Beatrice had somehow completed her pact. At least, that's what Roswaal was implying.
Interesting.
He didn't really get a chance to further explain, though. Subaru had interrupted out of anger. He was furious that despite knowing the despair Beatrice felt, Roswaal still did nothing at all. But once again, that was nothing more than Subaru's arrogance talking. Unlike him, Roswaal actually understood that there was nothing he could do to relieve her 400 years of sadness. It's not like Subaru didn't already know this to be the case, it was just that this was something he couldn't seem to accept. As they moved on to the situation with Emilia, we find out that the snow was intended to turn both the villagers and Garfield against her. For a bit more context, this wouldn't have been the first time that they'd have dealt with an out-of-season snowstorm directly related to Emilia's presence. So it was that connection plus Garfield's immediate jump to suspect Emilia that allowed Roswaal to complete his goal.
Yeah, that makes some... Yeah.
He used pre-existing prejudices to manipulate Emilia the exact way that he wanted to. And that was all with the intention of putting her into a position where she would have no choice but to depend on Subaru. If that was to happen, then Subaru's love for Emilia would render him unable to abandon her, securing Subaru as the asset that Roswaal needs in order to obtain his goal.
Jesus Christ.
Subaru's current state made him unable to accept Emilia's feelings. So Roswaal's plan had essentially failed. Once he realized that, Plan B was to force Subaru to return by death.
Wow.
But Roswaal doesn't actually know the circumstances or specifics of Subaru's power. So instead he beats Subaru with the intention of forcing him to activate Return by Death himself, not being aware that death itself was the trigger.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, because he doesn't know he technically doesn't, okay, he knows, but he doesn't know the specifics. Okay.
Not being aware that death itself was the trigger.
Yeah.
In fact, he actually felt that he could do everything except kill him. That was the key misunderstanding that Roswaal had on Subaru's power. He wasn't abusing him because he wanted to. He was just trying to get him to activate the next loop. When the rabbits appeared shortly after, we find out that the snow wasn't the only reason that they'd arrived one day early. Roswaal pointed out that demi-human blood is blessed with a significant amount of mana. So the fact that they were all now gathered into the cathedral likely made for a large clump of mana that looked like a very tasty meal for them.
Yeah, for the
This wasn't where the episode ended, though. The novel goes on to tell us how exactly it was that Subaru made it all the way to the tomb. The instant Roswaal died, Subaru made a dash straight to Emilia, passing by numerous houses as he could hear the screams of the residents being drowned out by the sounds of the rabbit. To ensure that he could get to his destination, Subaru called upon the remaining Ryuzu clones to intercept the rabbits, having them leap in and explode much in a similar way that Garfield did in the past. As he continued to run, there was one building that Subaru came across that made him stop right in his tracks. It was a massive building enveloped by fire. A building that Subaru could barely make out now as the cathedral.
That's crazy.
Over 100 people were supposed to be holed up in there. So why was it then that this building was now on fire? That's when Subaru finally understood. All those people in the cathedral chose to end their own lives in this flame.
Oh my god, what? I just noticed also this section of the video, Subaru's hell. Oh my god.
That this building was now on fire. That's when Subaru finally understood.
What?
All those people in the cathedral chose to end their own lives in this flame. The villagers, the residents, Ryuzu, and even Otto all believed that this was a death easier to handle than getting eaten alive.
Jesus.
And honestly, Subaru couldn't blame them. This was, after all, a hell of his own creation. And that's exactly what this was.
Hell of his own creation.
A portrait of hell.
Oh my god,
now,
a portrait.
as for the final scene,
a portrait of hell. What the fuck, dude? This is horrible. What a horrible fucking loop, man.
Was a portrait of hell. Now, as for the final scene, well, that was something that I'm sure needs no further explaining. Bringing us now to the end of episode 36.
My god.
So, I hope you were able to make it to the end of this cut content.
Yeah.
It was a little bit lengthier than normal, but definitely had some information worth sharing.
For sure, bro.
So be sure to leave a like or comment if you enjoyed watching it.
Had to lock in for this one.
Now, before I go, I'd like to thank Guardian Tales 1.
That's it for this video. What a fucking cut content. Yeah, this is the longest one yet, right? That actually gave so much more context to what happened. Yeah, that episode was a lot. A lot happened that episode. I'm obviously gonna... Bro, listen. Every comment that y'all got, I'm reading it. Well, I'm gonna try my best, okay? Explain a lot of things. Like, if there's any things that I didn't get in the original episode, right? Because the cut content is one thing. But in the original episode, I'm gonna be reading a lot of comments because y'all probably got the answers, bro. Y'all can probably explain in detail what the fuck... like... I kind of got the gist of it, but there's a lot of things that I really just... there's a lot of questions that I had in the other episode, like the original episode. I can't really remember them on the top of my head, but, you know, I had a lot of questions, so hopefully you guys got my back, bro, because this was a crazy episode. Truly a hell loop. This loop was fucked. What a fuck... That was horrible, bro. Oh my god. Alright, well, that is it for today's cut content. Shout out to you, AniNews. Thank you so much, AniNews, for the cut content. Once again, you're coming in clutch, man. Thank you so much. If y'all enjoyed, subscribe. Leave a like down below. The full uncut version to all ReZero content will be on Patreon. As always, have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.